News Report.
We are going to put our coal miners back to work.
Trump promises to bring back coal jobs by dismantling Obama's climate policies. The world is moving swiftly away from coal, report finds. Flame-retardant chemicals found in the Great Lakes. Wind energy hits another milestone in Europe. Plus,
flames and smoke filled the air, a scary sight no one expects to see the last day of winter.
Across the entire country, wildfire season off to a ferocious early start.
All of those early starts and more straight ahead from BradBlog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
Clean coal, right? Clean coal.
Right. Also, Trump steaks, Trump vodka, and Trump University. You Trump voters will buy anything, right? This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, coal is back.
Apparently Trump thinks so.
Who knew?
At a rally in Louisville, Kentucky on Monday, President Trump, without any details, claimed he could bring back U.S. coal mining jobs despite the decline in the use of coal.
As we speak, we are preparing new executive actions to save our coal industry and to save our wonderful coal miners from continuing to be put out of work. The miners are coming back.
The New York Times reports that any day now, President Trump is expected to sign a sweeping executive order dismantling President Obama's landmark climate policies, including ordering the Environmental Protection Agency to withdraw or rewrite the cornerstone of Obama's climate legacy, the Clean Power Plan, the first ever emission standards for U.S. power plants, plus a whole host of smaller but very crucial programs. More details once it's released, but the upshot is that these reversals of Obama's climate policy could make it virtually impossible for the U.S. to meet its target emissions reductions agreed to in the International United Nations Paris Agreement.
These changes also may be virtually impossible to actually accomplish. There will be court challenges. It will take years to change many of these rules. We'll see if he's actually able to make these changes, or if it goes as well as his travel ban, his healthcare policy, and everything else.
And so far, Trump's promises aren't enough to keep polluting coal plants in business. Ohio this week became the latest state to announce new coal-fired power plant closures. Residents living nearby will breathe easier. Dayton Power and Light announced on Monday it would shut down 2 coal plants in southern Ohio next year because burning coal for electricity is uneconomical now due to the glut of cheaper natural gas, along with clean wind and solar energy.
Has nobody explained that stuff to Donald Trump?
I don't think he cares.
Well, that may be true.
And Trump's dismantling of Obama's climate policies won't bring back U.S. coal jobs because the decline of coal is global. In spite of Trump's push for coal, the rest of the world is moving rapidly in the opposite direction. According to the latest annual boom and bust report on the global coal supply chain, released by a coalition of environmental groups this week, construction starts for new coal plants globally have dropped 62% over the last year. The biggest shift is in Asia, where both China and India have canceled or frozen plans to build 100 coal-fired power plants.
That's why he hates China.
Meanwhile, 2017 has already seen the earliest spring on record and the warmest ever start to the year on record in the United States. In addition to the record wildfires in Oklahoma and Kansas last week, the high temperatures have triggered an early and ferocious wildfire season across the country. Fires have now broken out from Washington state to Georgia, raising the possibility that the U.S. could be facing a record fire season. Normally in the U.S., by March, on average, wildfires have only burned about 200,000 acres. But this year, it's already hit more than 2 million.
Man, really? 2 million?
2 million. Toxic flame-retardant chemicals have been found in the Great Lakes for the first time in lakebed sediment and marine bird eggshells, according to a new study from the University of Illinois. Flame retardants used in children's clothing and furniture flake off and get swept into wastewater discharge that then gets dumped into the lakes, and it persists in the environment.
And yet Donald Trump's budget proposal requires the EPA to cut the Great Lakes cleanup program by 97%.
A perfect storm of pollution. But But some good news.
Take your time.
In Europe, at least, wind energy is booming. Last week, wind energy generated 1/5 of Europe's electricity, 70% of Denmark's electricity, and more than half of the electricity used in Ireland and Germany. And despite Trump's efforts to roll back President Obama's climate policies, U.S. carbon emissions are at their lowest level since 1992. That's the lowest emissions in 25 years, even as economic growth nearly doubled over that same amount of time.
Even as the hot air coming out of the White House alone has doubled since that time. For much more on all of these reports and the ones we couldn't get to, please check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Find us, follow us, and share us widely on the Facebooks and the Twitters at Green News Report. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
We need to make our way each and every day. You need to vote and say, keep us moving forward.
This has been the Green News Report on the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn.
Mary, how does little man? The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
To live in a democracy today, where freedom is everywhere. But girls, we often take this freedom for granted.
Really?
Freedom of speech.
What's that?
Freedom of thought.
What?
And freedom of action.
Do something.
But you know, gals.
What?
Just because a bunch of men signed that Declaration of Independence in 1776 doesn't mean that freedom was for men alone.
No.
Oh, no, you take Tom Jefferson.
Okay.
Ben Franklin.
You know.
John Hancock.
Adorable.
He's a hell of a guy for you right there.
Very cute.
All these men had wives.
Oh.
They probably had a few broads on the side, too.
Yeah.
These women wanted freedom just as much as their men did.
Yes.
But, gals, I wonder, do we? I think it's time that we women thought about it a bit.
Okay.
Hell, I think it's time we did something about it.
Hell.
So come on, fellow females of the 20th century.
21st.
Be glad that you're an American.
I'm glad.
Proclaim your freedom.
Freedom.
And attention.
Oh, dear God.
And allegiance.
Allegiance. And not. Yes. Oh. Yes. No. Yes. No. Put it on the floor. Take it off the floor. Put it on the floor. Take it off the floor. The Republicans had their do or die moment just a few seconds ago on the floor on health care. And that's where they ended up, on all fours on the floor, begging for relief. Begging. Please don't make us vote. And then Trump pulled the bill. Yeah. It was do or die. They chose to die. Of course they did. They're Republicans. They're all about death. Yeah. And that's what strong and wrong looks like. That's it really was their best option to let this thing not come up for a vote, truly, because, you know, dying is better than anything that monstrosity of a bill had within it. So he's a loser. He's a big sticking hashtag loser.
Obamacare kicks in 2016.
It kicks in 7 years
really
later?
Big league.
Oh, big league.
It is going to be amazingly destructive. Doctors are quitting. I have a friend who's a doctor.
Yeah, we met him.
And he said to me the other day, Donald, I never saw anything like it. I have more accountants than I have nurses. It's a disaster. Yeah. My patients are beside themselves. They had a plan that was good. They have no plan now. We have to repeal Obamacare, and it can be replaced, and it can be replaced with something much better for everybody. Let it be for everybody, but much better and much less expensive for people and for the government. And we can do it.
Yeah. What he said. Yeah, we can do it. It's called single payer, but they didn't go that way. In fact, Donald Trump, that was his announcement speech. That was way back in the day. That was the day that Melania came down in the white dress that looked like I don't know, looks like a hefty bag. Do you know? But on her, she can wear a hefty bag. I'm not saying. Don't get me wrong. She did wear a hefty bag, and she looked good in the hefty bag. She's married to Wimpy is what it. So this is a huge embarrassment for the Republican Party. This is a huge embarrassment for the Republican Party. And by that, I could be talking about this bill, Donald Trump, Paul Ryan, Mike Pence, and everybody involved in the it's never pleasant to watch legislative sausage being made. Never. However, how bad is it when at the end of the sausage making, you don't have any sausage? Where is it? No sausage. Tiny hands. No, I mean, the only other option that they had was to produce sausage that was so freaking toxic that it would kill people. That the plan was to die and die quickly. And everybody knew it, including the Freedom Caucus, who said things like, I can't sell this to my people. No, you couldn't. This was a battle royale between Donald Trump and the Koch brothers. The Koch brothers, who are ridiculous libertarians, who want all the tax money for themselves. Okay, this is what they want. And so they were very upset. They were very upset that we were getting subsidies, that I was getting a subsidy to help me pay for a healthcare plan that could save my life. They were very upset about that. They wanted this bill because they wanted to get rid of Obamacare so that they could have more tax breaks. Now, this bill turned out to be a transfer of wealth. That's all it was. This bill was a giant tax cut. It was a tax on age, truly. People 50 to 64 were going to have to pay 5 times more for what they already pay 3 times more than a 21-year-old pay for. And they were going to cut Medicaid down to the bone. $880 billion came out of Medicaid. And where did it go? Where did it go? It went to wealthy Americans. It was a tax on age and a tax cut on the wealthiest. And this is why everybody said no, because they couldn't sell this to Appalachia. They couldn't sell this to the coal miners. They can, listen, the coal miners are getting hip to this whole thing. They watched right at the beginning one of the big losses that they took. Yes, they voted for Donald Trump. After all these years, they said, if we just vote for a Republican, maybe the coal business will come back. It's never coming back. It's not going to happen. Okay? The Republicans are the ones who stole your pension on the way out the door. Okay, these are the guys who are now part of the Trump administration. The ones that did it to you are now in charge. And so when a health care bill came up for debate with regard to the coal miners and only the coal miners and whether or not their health care would be extended through this year, through the end of this year, the Republicans said, oh, let's just do it till April. Well, April's right around the corner. And I guess the coal miners went, damn, we made a mistake. Yes, you did. It's okay. I almost forgive you. Now the big healthcare package, now the really big one that would affect, 70 million people on Medicaid, the 10% that get their health care through the exchange. They wanted to do away with the essential benefits so that they could go back. And, a lot of people don't even remember this because most people got their health insurance through their employers. And their employers didn't buy crappy health insurance plans and then give it to the employees or ask you to chip in some to insure your family. I know because I was a corporate gal for years and years. And my health care plan was always okay until like the last few years that I was with the big corporation. And then all of a sudden they said, you know what? We're going to give you a health savings account and you could save up for your cancer. Now, if I would have stayed there and then got the cancer, I would have gone completely and utterly bankrupt. But I didn't stay there, went out on my own, and I purchased a healthcare plan on the exchange that the first plan that I bought didn't cover anything. It didn't cover jack crap. It was an HMO. And of course, if you join a HMO, which is a managed healthcare organization, and you do it to save yourself some money, and then you get sick, you're going to find out you're only allowed to see 5 doctors in the group. That's why you lost your doctor. If you cheaped out and you bought the cheapest healthcare plan there was, you ended up in an HMO, which is so bad that is actually commemorated in one of the great scenes of As Good as It Gets, where the poor little kid's got allergies and his mother can only afford to take him to the emergency room. She couldn't, no doctor would take her insurance because it was an HMO, right? And the kid was suffering, and Helen Hunt lived for her child. It was all about her child. And she worked as a waitress in Manhattan so that she could get, her kid to a doctor. Turns out Jack Nicholson comes in and he's a crazy OCD obsessed patient, but he's got money. And he likes when she serves him. So he says, I want you to serve me. And she says, you can't order me. I'm not steak. Mixing my movies. But instead he calls his doctor and he says to his doctor, I'm going to take care of all the bills. Go see what's wrong with her son. I need her to come into work and I need her to serve me. And all of a sudden she gets health care for her son because somebody had money to pay for it, right? Those are HMOs, and HMOs are offered on the exchange, and they're the lowest price plans. And if you bought one, no, you couldn't keep your doctor because you joined a health management organization whose job it is to be the gatekeeper between you and bills. So they deny you the ability to go to a specialist. They deny you the ability to do this or that, or go to see a doctor outside the plan, and because everything's negotiated inside the plan. Okay, so that's one thing. So now. But at least even the HMOs had to have essential benefits. They couldn't sell the plans that they were selling before the Obamacare, before ACA. And those plans didn't cover jack crap. I remember talking to people, oh my God, I remember when we were debating Obamacare, okay? 7 years ago. It's hard to believe, but 7 years ago, people were saying, listen, I just want people to know I paid for this healthcare plan for years and years and years. I'm a small business owner. I bought a plan. I paid for it for you, and I never used it because I never got sick. And then all of a sudden, I got sick. My wife got sick. My kid got sick. Somebody got sick, and they tried to use the plan. The plan didn't cover anything. The plan had high deductibles. It had lifetime caps. It had annual caps, which meant you could only use $25,000 worth of healthcare each year. After that, everything out of pocket was your responsibility. There was no mental health care coverage. There was no coverage for addiction, rehabilitation. There was no coverage for physical therapy. If you had back surgery, after you had the surgery and you needed physical therapy, you were SOL. You had to pay for that out of your pocket. So the surgery would go to waste because you couldn't go to physical therapy where they taught you how to use your new hip, or they taught you how to walk on your new knee, or they got rid of your frozen shoulder without surgery. For God's sake, you couldn't even do that. Overnight hospital stays weren't covered. Surgery wasn't covered. Maybe you could go to a doctor, but the prescription that he wrote wasn't covered. That's what we had before Obamacare. They put essential benefits into Obamacare. They said mental health is covered. They said rehab is covered. They said that overnight hospital stays are covered. Pediatric services are covered. Maternity services are covered. I played you Tom Price the other day. Tom Price is part of this weird doctors group, okay, that believes that you as a patient should be in negotiation with your doctor over procedures and the cost of them. So when you call the ambulance, apparently at that moment when you're on the phone with 911, you have to negotiate. How much is it going to cost? Don't come if I can't get it for less. Don't come unless, what are you telling me the ambulance ride is? $700? Yeah, well, don't come. I'm only paying you $4. Well, we can't do it for $4. We come and it's going to cost you $700. Yeah, well, my heart is attacking me, but I really need for you to not come unless you could do it for $4. Well, we can't do. This is what he wants. And then after you're in the hospital, or if you're in the ambulance and you're unconscious, he thinks that's the perfect time to negotiate which hospital you're going to go to, which doctor is going to see you in triage, which doctor is going to be the specialist that massages your heart or, gives you the paddles. I mean, this is insanity. This is crazy because they did away with the essential coverages in this bill. And you know why they did that? That was to get the Tea Party on board. That's what the Tea Party thought was a good deal, except it didn't go far enough and they couldn't vote for it. But they were willing and they wanted Ryan to take out from his plan these 10 basic essential coverages. And he did. In the middle of the night last night, he took it out. Oh, let everybody fend for themselves. Let them negotiate with their doctor. And that still wasn't good enough for the freaking Freedom Caucus. Oh my God. So the bill went down today. #fail.
Clear for takeoff. The Randi Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandiRhodes.com.
Hi. We're back. And everything is possible again. Isn't it beautiful? Well, if you want to keep it this way, buy a stinking podcast. Oh, yes, you have to buy a stinking podcast. And you get that at RandiRhodes.com, where we're open all day, all night long. RandiRhodes.com. Get your stinking podcast.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1912. That was the birthday of Dorothy Height, a civil rights leader and a champion for black women domestic workers. Domestic workers had largely been left out of the labor protections passed as part of the New Deal. Dorothy had grown up seeing firsthand how this exclusion impacted the women who cleaned homes and did other domestic work. Dorothy was born in Richmond, Virginia. Her mother was a nurse in a black hospital. But when the family relocated to Pennsylvania, her mother could not find work as a nurse. Like many black women who moved north during this time period, Dorothy's mother took a job as a domestic worker. She worked long hours for low wages. As Dorothy became involved in civil rights organizing, she remembered the experiences of her mother. In 1957, she was elected president of the National Council of Negro Women. From that position, she became a leader in the effort to improve working conditions for domestic workers. She became one of the leaders of the National Committee on Household Employment. This committee brought together representatives from 23 organizations concerned about domestic labor. Dorothy explained the urgency of the effort, stating, "Let's treat household employment as a profession in which workers have a contract and are assured fair hours and compensation, as well as coverage by our protective labor laws." Today, labor organizers are still fighting to win fair working conditions for domestic workers. Grassroots organizing has led states like New York and California to pass a domestic workers' Bill of Rights. Similar efforts are underway in other states to give workers the dignity and the respect that they earn. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com.
For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit RandiRhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
We're going to start winning big league on trade, militarily. We're going to build up our military. We're going to have such a strong military that nobody is going to mess with us. We're not going to have to use it.
Because we've got a lot to say about this bill, and none of it is good. First, let me just lay out what the bill actually is.
Yeah.
It is a massive tax cut for millionaires and billionaires, paid for by taking health insurance away from 24 million people, period. Anyone who takes 5 minutes to look at any unbiased analysis of the bill knows that this is true. Massive tax cuts for the well-off at the expense of 24 million people. And sometimes I think my Republican friends have lost their human ability to feel what 24 million people really means. So let me paint a picture of how big that number is. 24 million people is basically the entire population of the country of Australia. It is more people than live in the states of Kansas, New Mexico, Nebraska, West Virginia, Idaho, Hawaii, New Hampshire, Maine, Rhode Island, Montana, Delaware, South Dakota, North Dakota, Alaska, Vermont, Wyoming, and the District of Columbia combined.
Oh my God.
You know how I know this bill is a tax giveaway for the wealthy and not a health care bill? Because according to the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office analysis, and this is truly incredible, it would actually result in more people being uninsured than if the Affordable Care Act were simply repealed. Let that sink in for a minute. Second, this bill will cause people to pay more out-of-pocket dollars for lower quality health insurance.
Yep.
You're asking people to pay more for less coverage.
Yep.
In particular, lower income and older Americans will see their costs skyrocket.
Yep.
Those people who can least afford to pay more. Third, and this is a big one, this bill guts Medicaid and Medicare.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take it from me. The AARP said, and I quote, "This bill would weaken Medicare's fiscal sustainability, dramatically increase health care costs for Americans aged 50 to 64, and put at risk the health care of millions of children and adults with disabilities and poor seniors who depend on the Medicaid program for long-term services and supports other benefits," end quote.
You know, what a great result that would have been. And you know what the crazy thing is? Donald Trump didn't give a rat's ass what was in this bill. Donald Trump told you that he had this fantastic health care plan. Everybody would get, it was so fantastic. And you were going to pay less and you were going to get more and the government would be out. That, first of all, was an impossible claim, okay, that he made. But he kept making it over and over again, over and over. We're going to repeal and replace Obamacare with something fantastic that he had no plan. Just like he has no plan to beat ISIS. Just like Mexico is never going to pay for that wall. Just like Donald J. Trump is ready to ban every Muslim from coming into the country, and he couldn't do that either. This man is a con man. This man is a liar. This man is a salesman. He's a P.T. Barnum. He thinks that you're a sucker. Now, the crazy thing is, he didn't give a rat's ass what was in Ryan's bill. Really didn't care. He would let them do anything that they wanted in that bill. And the crazy part is he still couldn't get anything passed.
We will have so much winning if I get elected that you may get bored with winning. Believe me. I agree. You'll never get bored with winning. We never get bored.
All right. Garrick in Richland, California. Hi.
Hey, Randy, looks like Donald J. Trump is Charlie Sheen winning. What is this?
He's a liar. He's a con man. He's a loser. He's somebody that knows how to take everything good and bankrupt it and then go trolling for money in the darkest corners of the planet. This is what he is. The guy is he's never done anything
he's a fraud.
He's a total
fraud. And then
it's not just. Let me just say this, okay? It's not just you saying it, and it's not just me saying it. It's Donald Trump saying it, because when Donald Trump was sued for fraud, Donald Trump paid $25 million to the people he defrauded. So it's not you saying it, and it's not me saying it, and it wasn't a court saying it. It was Donald Trump himself showing you that he is a fraud because he paid $25 million to people he defrauded. So that is a safe thing to say.
That is true, and we also have to realize he was damned if he did pass this bill and damned if he didn't, because if he did, the only people would lose their health insurance and would have been dying on his plan. Majority of his voters, and now that he didn't pass this bill, the man is showing how much of a failure he is.
Well, I'm glad that he's damned that he didn't, because, frankly, this thing would have taken health care away from the most vulnerable working Americans that we have in this country. When I first found out that 70 million people were getting their health care through Medicaid, I was like, oh my God, that is such a huge amount of people to get their health insurance from the lowest paying plan, which is Medicaid, meaning the doctors get the least reimbursement to see these people. It's vile. Listen, there's two things that need to happen. And it's up to us to decide which we want, because now you can see that we can do stuff, okay? They don't know how to govern, and it's still up to us to govern. While it's very much fun being in the opposition, I got to say I'm enjoying it a whole lot. But,
oh yeah, I am too. But what's really sad is that 50,000 should be more, because there are states that are the reddest of the red that did not expand the Medicare and Medicaid expansion. So there really should be more than 70,000. 70 million. I'm sorry. There should be more.
No, but what I was going to say is there's only two choices at this point. One, either we get the freaking Republicans to admit and to restore the risk corridors to Obamacare, to bring back the people who was the insurance carriers that were stiffed. Okay, what happened was they said, yeah, if Randi comes to us, she's been in an HMO and now she's sick and she wants the real health care plan. She's willing to pay for it, but, no matter what her premium is, we're going to spend at least $250,000, $300,000 on her health care this year. So we're going to lose money on her. So we're gonna need some money from the government to take all the people that are gonna come, like she did when she was really facing, a major healthcare crisis. And the government said in Obamacare, all right, we'll make a risk corridor for patients like her, and we'll pay you if you lose money on her. And they filed their claim at the end of 2012, and they were owed $83 billion to take people like me. Okay, and Marco Rubio in a budget bill said, we're not paying it, and stiffed them. That's when you started to see carriers move off of the exchange. That's when you lost United. That's when you lost Humana. That's when you lost, a lot of carriers. So that in this state, in Florida, we have basically Florida Blue, that's it, or Molina Healthcare. These are the two companies. Now, they do offer like 30 different plans each, but that's what you got. And it's all because Marco Rubio stiffed them. So if they restore the risk corridor payments, then that will solve a lot of the problems of not having choices. And, they don't want to admit that. The other option is to finally push for single payer healthcare, which most of this country is down with now. And for a weird reason. Everybody likes it now because they hate Obamacare because they were told to hate it. So even the Republicans who had it drilled into their head, they don't have Obamacare. They probably have Medicaid or employer-based health insurance. There's only 10% of us that are on Obamacare. This bill affected 24 million people, and yet only 10% of us are on Obamacare. Okay, it's ridiculous. So anyway, we need to push for single-payer health care, which is Medicare for all, and get it done, or restore the risk corridor to the ACA, and most of your problems will go away. The cost will come down. There'll be more choices on the exchanges, but that's not what they wanted to do. They wanted to actually leave people to die. They literally wanted people to buy crappy health insurance policies that didn't have the 10 essential coverages that you need in order to consider that a real health care plan. I mean, what good is a health care plan if you can go to the emergency room, but you can't have surgery?
That's no point. There's no point if you can't get surgery.
But
that's what calling yourself a health care plan.
But that's what the Tea Party wanted to do last night. First of all, the Tea
Party cannot think for themselves. They're programmed to think. You got to remember, during the healthcare exchange in 2009, during that debate, though, they were male talking points to yell and to scream. They can't think for themselves. Honestly, they're a danger. Honestly, these people are these Tea Party people, these people that are voted against healthcare, that are against healthcare. I mean, they're mentally ill. I mean, they're a danger to themselves as well as the country.
Well, they're not a danger to themselves because they have government health insurance, which is what I'm saying we all want.
Oh, but some of the voters who don't have a pocket pension or a wind to throw it at us.
Oh, you're talking about the voters. Well, listen, they were purchased. I mean, there's just no question about it. The Tea Party didn't exist, in government in 2009. Okay, they just didn't. And because we passed Obamacare, all of a sudden the Tea Party started to, rear its head. Now, who was the Tea Party? It was Freedom Works. It was Heritage Action. It was Club for Growth. These are all Koch brothers organizations that spent millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. I can't even tell you how much they spent advertising to people that Obamacare was bad, advertising to people and picking legislators of the Republican Party who would vote for Obamacare to primary. That's what the Tea Party was. And right now, it's the same battle because now you have all these Tea Party people in Congress who are trying to stay in Congress. And the Koch brothers said, hey, look, I just want you to realize one thing. We don't want this bill. We don't like this bill. It doesn't go far enough for us. And we're going to spend $400 to $500 million primarying any Republican that votes for this bill. That's why you had today, the last count that we had was 36 no votes in the Republican Party. It's the Freedom Caucus. Those are the Koch brothers purchased. I mean, they really ought to wear NASCAR uniforms. And they really ought to have, instead of Pennzoil, they ought to have, Koch brothers companies all over their suits. Because that's why they voted no. They didn't vote no because they cared about people. They didn't vote no because it took away. They wanted the essential benefits removed. And they got that last night. And you know what's really crazy? think I tweeted it last night. 9 months we spent debating Obamacare. I know, because we were on the air every day and I had to learn everything about healthcare, everything about the ACA. I had to read 1,000 pages. It was an amazing slog. 3 weeks it took to get through this thing with legal help so that I could explain it to you in the simplest way, right? People remember we used to have a whiteboard, and every time, there was something that we learned that was in the bill, we'd put it up on the whiteboard. Every time the CBO scored it, we would tell you what the CBO score meant. We would tell you what the premiums would look like. We would tell you how it affected employer insurance. And it was, we kept a running tab on the whole thing for 9 months. This is what we worked on. It was like the OJ trial for healthcare. It was amazing. It was an everyday thing, and it was so hard to do, but we did it. And it passed after 9 months of debate. Well, they spent, they introduced this bill, on Monday? And today is Friday? That's how much thought they put into it after 7 years of being the opposition to this thing, not having a replacement plan. It was an amazing thing to watch. It was an amazing thing. They had to cancel the vote yesterday. They do this thing on Monday. They throw it on the floor. The damn thing gets scored. It comes back really putrid. Terrible. 24 million people are going to lose their health insurance. The health care plans that will be sold now are substandard. They brought back the argument, why should a man have to pay for a woman's mammograms? Can I just tell you, men get breast cancer too? But, it affects you now. But don't you understand that every man came out of some woman? Don't you give a damn about the woman that gave birth to you? Don't you care about your wives? Don't you care about your daughters? And even if you're a super, super loner, you still got a mother. Why would you pay for my mammogram? Are you insane? Why do I pay for your prostate exam? Honest to God, man, this is so ridiculous. And then why should we pay for their maternity care? No matter what you think, I can't get pregnant without your spermatozoa. I think you had something to do with it. This is just the cruelest, nastiest bunch of people I have ever encountered. And they've always been like this. They've been like this ever since the Koch brothers started to recruit them. The Koch brothers went out and found the nastiest, ugliest, name-callingest people. We should pull those old videos of the Tea Party rallies with Obama with a bone through his nose. Really? Really? This was some long ass slog, 9 months of this crap. And finally the damn thing gets passed. And now you have, all these people covered in this country. You have people, and we can do better. There's no question we can do better. Now you have two choices here. Either restore the risk corridors and get more choice on the exchange and get competition going on the exchange and bring down the prices, or let's go full throttle and do what we really wanted, because remember, Obamacare was a compromise. It was a Heritage Foundation plan in the first place. They're just pissed off that they lost. Ridiculous. These are ridiculous people. Ridiculous people. But I got to tell you, this president he's got a track record of, it's only day 62 or 3? And he's lost every major battle. Mexico's not paying for no stinking wall. The travel ban went up in smoke twice in two courts. The health care bill is dead. Now he says he's moving on to tax reform. God help us.
To speak to Randy, call now, you bastards. 561-270-3844.
Hello.
The Randi Rhodes Air Force.
Buy a stinking podcast. Now that Trump's moved into the White House, I know. You could see he wasted no time. He went to work for his ultra-wealthy pals. He's making fundamental economic changes that are going to affect your money and your retirement. He's chipping away at banking regulations. You know he's going after Dodd-Frank, and that unwinds the fiduciary rule. That's a rule that keeps your money safe from deceptive financial practices. Like I said before, this administration is so awful. They are so greedy. And that's why now, more than ever, is the best time to diversify your retirement portfolio like I did. Gold's low correlation with stocks and bonds can help you in times of uncertainty. Call my friends at ITM Trading. Get a free gold kit. Learn why gold survives every government, every currency, every economic crisis. Call ITM today at 1-888-OWN-GOLD for guidance from their precious metals experts. They've helped thousands of people just like me buy gold and silver coins and bars, and they can help you too. 1-888-OWN-GOLD. Call 1-888-OWN-GOLD.
You're listening to WIN, Workers Independent News, a diversified media enterprises production. I'm Doug Cunningham. In a dramatic day of protests against the repeal of the Affordable Care Act, Republicans decided Thursday not to vote on their health care repeal. They don't have the vote yet to pass it. As House Speaker Paul Ryan canceled press briefings and stayed behind closed doors, protesters loudly decried Ryan's repeal plan that will take away health care from 24 million people.
My name is Maureen, and I am from Wisconsin. Paul Ryan, we're in crisis. Paul Ryan, we're in crisis. We need our health care. We need our health care. We rely on the Affordable Care Act to save our lives. We rely on the Affordable Care Act to save our lives. 24 million people lose coverage under your plan.
National Nurses United say that the Republican destruction of the Affordable Care Act is a mortal threat to the health and well-being of their patients and to the health security of our country. And the nurses say Republicans aren't replacing it with anything that will benefit people who lack the health care services that they need. The nurses are urging all House members to vote against the Republican health care bill. Economists at the Economic Policy Institute say the Republican health care bill will cost Americans an additional $33 billion out of pocket by 2026. That counts higher deductibles, copays, and coinsurance costs. EPI says millions of Americans will also face higher insurance premium costs, and millions more of us will be forced to go without any health insurance at all. EPI says the only way the Republican bill reduces costs is by forcing patients to cut back across the board on the care they receive, regardless of how effective or necessary this care is. UAW President Dennis Williams says the U.S. Senate's passage of Senate Joint Resolution 27 is a vote to roll back workplace protections that have existed for 40 years. Williams says the Senate vote is a slap in the face of American workers. The Senate action would eliminate a requirement that employers keep health and safety records for 5 years. The UAW says this Senate bill would let large employers in dangerous industries destroy health and safety records after 6 months. Those records are used by OSHA to identify hazardous conditions and to take corrective action to prevent future deaths and injuries to workers. WIN is made possible in part by the OPEIU, the Office of Professional Employees International Union.
Workers Independent News is proud to be heard on The Union Edge, Labor's Talk Radio. Live nationwide weekdays noon to 3 p.m. at theunionedge.com.
You've been listening to WIN, Workers Independent News. For more information, visit laborradio.org.
All things Randy at randyrhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randy Rhodes Show.
Oh, I can't believe it. I was waiting to see what he would say. What Twitler would say. You know what listen, this is my favorite part of all Donald Trump's failures is doing what he does best, watching him do what he does best. And you know what he does best? He blames people. That's what he's really good at. He said that the reason why this bill failed isn't because he couldn't get the Republicans together on his bill. They have a majority in the House, they have a majority in the Senate, and they have a Republican president that would have signed any piece of crap that they put on his desk. And he's sitting there right now and saying it's the Democrats' fault that this bill failed. I swear on my life. He said we had no votes from the Democrats, and that's why it failed. He's got a majority in the House, a majority in the Senate, and he will sign any piece of crap that came across his desk. And he couldn't move a bill. He showed his hand, and they're tiny little ones. And according to Trump, he's done. He said if Republicans didn't pass the bill today, he's moving on. Well, judging from this Russia investigation, he's moving on anyway. But I swear to God, he's blaming the Democrats, even though he's got a House and a Senate and the presidency. Wow, that's really crazy. Well, you want to know why he had no Democratic support?
When the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office released its report last week showing that 24 million hardworking Americans will lose their health coverage by 2026 if we pass the bill, that premiums would rise 15 to 20% with higher deductibles and out-of-pocket costs, and that middle-aged Americans would be priced out of the insurance market by an age tax, I thought for sure this bill was dead on arrival, that there was no way Republicans would walk this plank.
Really?
I would not want to, nor would I know how to, justify giving $900 billion in tax cuts to corporations and the wealthy, paid for by threatening the health and well-being of millions and millions of American families. Mr. Chairman, when I was here in January, you invited me to meet with you about your health care replacement bill, the world's greatest health care act, as you named it. And while I wouldn't necessarily agree with the characterization in the title, and don't agree with many of the ways in which you propose to change the Affordable Care Act, it was and is a serious and thoughtful proposal. And I do think it's worth pointing out a major difference between your bill and the legislation this committee is about to send to the floor. Your bill does not provide billions of dollars in tax cuts to corporations and the wealthy. You keep that funding in our healthcare system and reorganize it. You recognized, as we Democrats do, and as CBO did, that it's impossible to cover as many people and provide better quality of care while making drastic cuts to our nation's healthcare programs.
That's why. It was a transfer of wealth. The bill was a vehicle for tax cuts. The bill was cutting $880 billion from Medicaid and giving a tax cut to the wealthiest Americans. And the tax cut to the wealthiest Americans was slightly less than the amount that would be saved by cutting off 70 million people from Medicaid, or 24 million people from Medicaid, and the subsidies. That was $1 trillion total that would be saved by allowing 24 million people to die when they got sick. The amount that was going to go to the wealthy was slightly less than the trillion. It was $1.1 trillion. And so there was a savings of $337 billion. And they were declaring victory on the backs of middle-aged Americans who were going to get less coverage for increased premiums. And they were going to do away with the Medicaid. They were going to block grant it so that instead of getting paid for each person that comes into Medicaid, there would be a fixed amount given to the state, and the state could do whatever it wanted with that grant, by the way, which meant that they could say, we're not even going to spend it on healthcare. We're not even going to spend it on block grants. We're not for Medicaid. We're going to spend it on something else. Anyway. Manny in Massachusetts.
Hey, I was just wondering, I have a question, but first let me just say that the Koch brothers yesterday said don't vote for this bill.
Yes.
And so Donald Trump tried to appease them and change up the bill so they could vote for it. And then today, this morning, he had a big press conference in front of the camera signing this pipeline that the Koch brothers will make money off of if it goes through. Do you think he was trying to appease the Koch brothers?
How did the Koch brothers make money off the pipeline?
I heard that they were involved in it, that they was going to make some money off of it. I haven't done all my research into it. I was wondering maybe you knew anything about it. And I also wanted to ask you, is this the future of the House, that whatever the Koch brothers wants, the Koch brothers gets?
Well, it's been like that for about, 6 years now. I mean, maybe more. The Koch brothers have purchased at least 40 members of the House of Representatives. And if you don't do what the Koch brothers tell you to do, then you're primaried, and it works. I mean, they have primaried a whole bunch of people, and they run them as outsiders against people who are already there. And it seems to appeal to the base, and that's what they do. I mean, they have said that in 2018, they are spending $300 to $400 million on the 2018 election, and that they were keying this vote, meaning they were going to keep tabs of anybody that voted for this bill, and if they voted for it, they were going to be primaried with Koch brothers money. And that's it's Americans for Prosperity in 30 states. It's 3.2 million citizen activists. It's 14 million that they spent in Freedom Partners. The attack ads, $30 million. I mean, these men, these boys throw money at all these legislators who, kowtow to them. They're terrified of them. So it's intimidation, but it goes on because of Citizens United, and that's when everything changed.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Is it in their best interest now to try to overturn?
If I were them, I would do that so fast.
They can't get anything done now.
I mean, listen. When Donald Trump was running, I was like taking so much pleasure in the fact that he was destroying and breaking the Republican Party. You could see that he was doing it, and obviously, it's broken. So so how smart is he, though? You have to sit there and say to yourself, she was right. He did break the Republican Party. We see that it's broken today. They don't vote as a bloc anymore. You got 40 that are beholden to the Koch brothers because the Koch brothers put them there, and they had to dance with them that brung them. Right? Which I kept saying last night. I said, this thing's going down. They have to dance with the person that brung them, and the person that brung them is a Koch brother. So they can't vote for this bill, no matter what they do, unless it's a straight repeal with no replacement. They cannot vote for it. They will be primaried. Okay? And I said, when he was running, I said, look at this. Oh my God, he's tearing up the Republican Party. He's breaking them in half because the Republican Party are the globalists. They are the free traders. They are the oil and gas people. They are the Koch brothers. And then all of a sudden, Donald Trump comes down the pike, and Donald Trump says, no, I'm not a globalist. I'm an isolationist. I don't believe in free trade. I'm going to get rid of NAFTA. I'm going to get rid of TPP, which, by the way, TPP was never introduced, so there was never a vote on it, so there was nothing to get rid of. That's a lie, too. Oh, and he told another lie today, just before I forget. He was sitting with Tom Rutledge. Doesn't mean anything to you, right? Tom Rutledge is the CEO of a company called Charter, and Charter is a communications company. Last May, when Donald Trump was not president, last May, the Federal Communications Commission approved a deal for Charter. They do broadband. They lay broadband across the country. The FCC approved Charter's deal last May, and Charter CEO Tom Rutledge said in January that because the FCC approved this back in May, they were going to be able to hire 20,000 new employees within 3 years. Okay, so this was a done deal. The man had started his application to the FCC. He wanted to invest $25 billion in broadband infrastructure and technology in the next 4 years. Now, he started lobbying to get this done almost 3 years ago. 3 years ago. And then last May, the FCC gave him a go. They gave him a green light to go ahead and do it. And so they were on track to add 20,000 American workers and invest $25 billion in broadband and technology. Today, for some strange reason, Tom Rutledge went to the White House and allowed Donald Trump to make him into a clown. Listen to this.
My friend, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, my good friend and supporter. We love you. Today, I am thrilled to announce that Charter Communications has just committed to investing $25 billion with a B. 25 billion. You sure that's right? Not with an M. With a B, right? With a B. $25 billion here in the United States, and has committed further to hiring 20,000 American workers over the next 4 years. Charter has also committed to completely end its offshore call centers. That is such a big deal. And to base 100% of its call centers here in the United States. all American jobs.
Thank you.
I want to curse him out so bad, but I won't. I swear to God, this deal to close the overseas call centers and to build a new call center in Texas to invest $25 billion in broadband and technology was something that Charter was working on for the past 3 years. Last year, they got the FCC's green light that they could do it. Part of the deal was that they would bring back the overseas call centers. And of course, there's a merger that is in the offing too. Well, part of it was a merger with Bright House Networks and Charter. And so in order to make that happen, the FCC asked them to do certain things like close the overseas call centers, bring the jobs back to the United States. Then they would be. And this was all going on for 3 years. All of a sudden today, Donald Trump is taking credit for this. This had nothing to do with, nothing. The nerve of him is endless. The lies are endless. And the dead Russians are endless. There's 10 of them now. 10 dead Russians. Oof. Where are we going? Mark in Chester, New York.
Hey, Randy, how you doing?
Hi.
I'm a kind of forward-looking guy.
Yeah.
And I like to try and see ahead to where we might be going. And it seems to me that at this point, our best possible outcome would involve the following phrase: President Orrin Hatch.
Oh, Jesus.
Don't you think so, though? If Trump's complicit,
so you're saying
Pence is complicit,
you're saying Trump
and Ryan is complicit, the next guy in line, and I'm pretty sure he wasn't up for election last year, so he didn't benefit directly.
I don't even think he's running again. I think he's.
He might not be, but he is the next guy in succession after Ryan.
Ugh.
I'm sorry.
I know. See, you bring up a good point. This is what I want people on the opposite side who would call me, whatever. I want you to understand that if we went through with this and had a decent independent investigation and found culpable and guilty of cooperation, if not collusion, the Trump administration, and I mean the whole administration, everyone that's there, and we went through the line of succession, we still wouldn't end up with a Democratic president. So this has nothing to do with a party affiliation. It has nothing to do with, where I stand is where I sit. No, this is that we have an illegitimate president who invited a foreign adversary of ours into our election by asking them to hack us, using every tool in the book to let them, denigrate Hillary Clinton and escalate him. And it doesn't matter, because no matter how this plays out, if he left and everybody left, we'd end up with a Republican president. Just saying.
You can't just hit the reset button and say, no, we go back, put Obama back, put the whole 114th Congress back in place.
Right.
It doesn't happen. That ain't the way it works.
Exactly. Thank you for bringing that up, because now I think people understand that this is not about getting rid of a Republican president in favor of a Democratic one. That can't happen in this scenario. It's just, let's get rid of this man who is a world heavyweight champion con man, who is destroying this country, who believes and said he believes in the deconstruction of this country. Pure Leninism, pure Somalia territory.
The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
The Randi Rhodes Show is brought to you by our partners at ITM Trading. Call them at 1-888-OWN-GOLD and ask for a free gold kit. 1-888-OWN-GOLD.
Hey, Progressive Voices listeners. I'm Rebecca Vallis, host of Off Kilter, powered by the Center for American Progress Action Fund. This week, we sat down with Harry Stein, a budget guru from the Center for American Progress, to learn what's in Trump's budget released this week. Who are the winners? Who are the losers? Let's take a listen.
Usually you see these budgets from a new administration, and
they're at least actually budgets. I mean, they're new, so they're not necessarily quite so detailed, but there's at least something that says, what's your plan for the tax code? What's your plan for Social Security and Medicare? They say nothing on these things, and it's just, a few things on discretionary programs and I mean, really frightening stuff. But, I mean, people have been calling it a skinny budget. It's more of a starvation budget, both because it's really, really skinny and also because it tries to starve people.
Quite literally.
Literally.
And we should start there. So it makes huge cuts to the U.S. Department of Agriculture and to a range of nutrition programs. Perhaps the one getting the most attention this week is Meals on Wheels.
Right. Meals on Wheels gets funding, and there's private money that funds Meals on Wheels, but a lot of people don't realize Meals on Wheels gets a lot of federal money. And this is not just a program, of course, that's about food. It's also for a lot of people that receive Meals on Wheels. This is like, if they're homebound, a really important way to just check on people and make sure that people are doing all right.
And companionship.
And what we're hearing out of the White House is there's no evidence that these programs are effective. Well, two things. First of all, they're wrong. There's great studies that these programs are effective across a whole range of health and well-being and economic outcomes. But second, I'm not entirely sure how the White House defines food as effective. There's hungry people, and they get fed, and they wouldn't necessarily get fed otherwise. So I don't know how Mick Mulvaney defines success at the dinner table, but when I eat and I was hungry before, I consider that a success.
So another program that maybe doesn't get a ton of attention, but I would really love to highlight, is something called LIHEAP, the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. And that's kind of a mouthful, but what it really does is it helps low-income people afford heating oil and to pay their heating costs in the winter. I mean, that's the short version. So is it too much, Harry, to say that Trump's budget is literally leaving struggling families out in the cold? Out in the cold, or potentially out in the heat. When it's summer and people need air conditioning, and we see this, all over the country at times where there's heat waves, and I mean, this is legitimately people die when there's a heat wave and they don't have air conditioning, particularly seniors.
Yeah, and this is something also that it's important across the country, but it's particularly important regionally in the Northeast and in the Midwest, and particularly in the Midwest. I mean, a lot of these are people that are communities that may have voted for Donald Trump, and a lot of them didn't too. But this is really walking away from a lot of the people who thought that Donald Trump was going to be different.
Well, we should talk a little bit about that, because that's actually something that a lot of folks have looked into since the budget was released. And the consensus seems to be that the populations who are going to be hit the hardest by Trump's cuts are rural and small town counties, the counties that went overwhelmingly for Trump. And as you just pointed out, these are folks who were not voting for tax cuts for the wealthy and for corporations. They were begging, please help improve my economic circumstances, bring back my job or save my job like you promised. But those are the communities that are going to be hardest hit. Trump even goes so far as to eliminate a program, really an entity called the Appalachian Regional Commission, whose entire job is economic development in that region.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just the Appalachian Regional Commission, which of course was a community that supported him, a rural community with high levels of poverty. If you look at the Legal Services Corporation, which you know intimately,
which we'll be talking about later in the episode.
So for example, they fund representation for low-income people, whether it's domestic violence cases or housing cases. That's really important in rural areas where there's not as many lawyers that you can turn to. A lot of these programs are even more important in areas where there's not as many private sector services.
And Trump eliminates the Legal Services Corporation altogether, eliminating all federal funding for the help that people need to get lawyers.
I saw that apparently the way the White House Budget Office put this together was they said, well, we listened to all of Trump's speeches and we put the budget together based on that. Oh, and, I don't know. That's an interesting way to put together a budget, but also I think a lot of people heard a very different set of Trump speeches than what apparently the White House Budget Office heard and what apparently Trump heard himself saying. People heard Trump saying that he was going to invest in infrastructure. Well, this budget makes huge cuts to infrastructure programs. People thought they heard Trump say that I care about child care. Well, this budget probably makes huge cuts to child care programs. People heard Trump say everybody's going to have health insurance. Well, we also see, I think this week, or maybe it was last week, the Congressional Budget Office comes out. Their health care bill takes health insurance away from 24 million people, and Trump's apparently fine with that. So I don't know what speeches Trump thought he was giving and what people at the Budget Office thought they were listening to. But I think a lot of those voters were listening to very different speeches from the president.
Thanks for listening. For more Off Kilter, find us on the Progressive Voices Network and as a podcast on iTunes. Follow us on Twitter at Off Kilter Show and at facebook.com/Off Kilter Show.
We did it, you bastards! We're live, and it only took 2 years. Okay. All right. So we're back, we're live, and you're there, and we're here, and ain't that great? Now let me just tell you that if you want to listen whenever and wherever you'd like to listen, just go to randyrhodes.com, click on podcasts and swag, and get your podcast commercial-free, on demand, on any device. randyrhodes.com. Open all day, every day.
Mary had a little lamb. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
It is with all this in mind that I have come to a decision about the current nominee. After careful deliberation, I have concluded that I cannot support Judge Neil Gorsuch's nomination to the Supreme Court. His nomination will have a cloture vote. He will have to earn 60 votes for confirmation. My vote will be no, and I urge my colleagues to do the same. To my Republican friends who think that if Judge Gorsuch fails to reach 60 votes, we ought to change the rules, I say if this nominee cannot earn 60 votes, a bar met by each of President Obama's nominees and George Bush's last two nominees, the answer isn't to change the rules, it's to change the nominee.
All right, Chuck. I'm down with that. It's so interesting, that everything that they're doing is failing. Every single thing that they're doing is failing. And, the fact that Gorsuch probably cannot get 60 votes, which is what's needed and what has always been required in order to get confirmed to the Supreme Court as a justice for life, and that the Republicans are saying, well, then we'll change the rules, it's just such an indication of how completely and utterly Donald Trump has broken the GOP. And for that, we say thank you, because it was a bad party to begin with. It was the party of the well-connected. It's a globalist party. It's a party of billionaires. It's a party of organized attacks on the people that we send to represent us. If the Koch brothers and their ilk, if Freedom Works and Heritage Foundation and all these Koch brothers, moneyed groups don't like that particular legislator that we voted for in our own district, in our own state, they primary them and they pick just those two. Pick the person that they would like. This is all a result of Citizens United. So, I honest to God, I'm glad that Donald Trump broke the GOP, because it was a bad, poisoned party, poisoned by a handful of billionaires' money, and it was, literally purchasing representation for themselves at the expense of all of us. And that's why everything is failing. It's failing because the party is broken. It's failing because there's a part of the party that is beholden to these millionaires and billionaires. And then there's a part of the party that is still, the cloth coat Republican that has, principles and ideas that might be different from mine, but you could debate them and you could come to some compromise. You remember that compromise became the dirtiest word in Republican circles. You weren't allowed, there were purity tests for every last person that was going to, ascend to a public office. I mean, that's what the Tea Party was all about. Rhinos and Republicans in name only. And, we want purity, and you have to be against everything we're against. You have to be for everything we're for. Even though they say, states' rights, meaning each district is different and it's got a different population and each state is different and they have different needs and they have different desires and they have different, apparently different healthcare needs. I have no idea how that could be true. But, I was so glad when I saw him breaking the party apart because it's a failed party. It's a party. I understand that they have the House and the Senate and the White House, but yet it's a failed party. This is more of the oxymoronic nature of a Trump presidency, where it looks like they should be winning and they keep losing. And it's because their ideas are so bad that you can't get even them together. They've become like herding cats. And I'm glad. Because if this bill, I don't think you realize how close you were. I really don't. I don't know how many Americans realize just how close they were to losing their health care coverage, to losing their subsidies. I mean, I have to have that subsidy. I mean, that's what makes it, affordable for me to have the plan that I need. And the poor people who work their asses off for minimum wage and still come in, eligible for Medicaid. I mean, my God, what would have happened to them? What really would have happened to them? What would have happened to their kids? What would have happened to and it's going to be the same attack now on schools. It's going to be the same. I mean, the whole thing, the whole system is now, poised to purge these bad ideas. And one of those bad ideas is Gorsuch. Okay, he's a bad pick. He just is. He's stunning. He's gorgeous. And the more he talks, the more my skin crawls. He's got to be stopped. I mean, this guy, and he needs to earn, Schumer's right. He needs to earn 60 votes. And if he can't earn 60 votes, he shouldn't be on the Supreme Court for the rest of his life. He's 49 years old. He could be on the Supreme Court for another 30 years. The man is, he's ruled against autistic. Look, the Supreme Court said they didn't want him. And how did they say that? They overturned him unanimously, 8-0, on the case of that little autistic boy whose parents found him a school that could, serve the kid in such a way that his life was doable. His life became, full of opportunity because everything that he was doing in regular school was showing that he could, he could handle his life. He could, he could socialize with other kids. He could toilet himself. He could, learn math, and he could read. But when he came home, all the things that were being done in school didn't transfer. So he needed a 24/7 school setting where he also lived so that he could transfer the skills that he was learning in school to the home setting. And his parents found him a school like that, and they applied for reimbursement because we have a law in this country called IDEA. And IDEA is for disabled, it's an individual that's disabled is guaranteed a real education that serves them. Gorsuch said, no, the public schools only have to do the bare minimum. And the Supreme Court wrote, why don't you just wait till the kid fails miserably and drops out? I mean, if that's all you're going to do is the bare minimum, then you have no chance of succeeding. Why would you set yourself up to fail? And overturn Gorsuch in the middle of his confirmation hearing, and hardly anybody reported it. I didn't see this on the news. I didn't hear it talked about. I didn't see Tubin weigh in. I didn't see Napolitano. Well, he's indefinitely suspended. And I can't wait for him, the intensely brilliant lawyer that Judge Napolitano on Fox News is, to figure out what that term indefinitely suspended means. Because I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, they don't want him there. Karen in Franklin, Tennessee.
Randy, I love you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Long time, first time.
Oh, no. Hi.
Oh, that was terrific.
Oh, great. Sure. I did that with one hand, so can you imagine?
Oh.
Yeah. Hello.
I just read on Twitter a little while ago that Andrea Mitchell today on her program said that she was told that some of the Trump transition team were purging their phones.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Had you heard anything about that?
I have, and we don't know which people in the administration were asked or ordered to preserve their records and their phones and their documents, their emails, etc. But if they have indeed purged their phones so that the investigation can't look at who they've spoken to during the time of the transition in question, they will, if they've been ordered to preserve records and they violated that order, there will be, criminal penalties for that.
And they can find out now. I mean, to purge your phone is so stupid because, well, they're not really
purged.
Too smart anyway. I mean, you would think they would know that.
Yeah, well, it just depends on, like I know Flynn was ordered to preserve records. They're all going to voluntarily testify because they were about to be subpoenaed. So now we have Manafort, Carter Page, and Roger Stone voluntarily, going to give some sort of interview to, I don't know if it's to Comey or to Admiral Rogers at the NSA, but they all say whatever questions because they were all going to be subpoenaed. Now, if these are the people that were ordered to preserve records and they've purged their phones, then it's kind of like the underlying crime is going to do them in because it's just like, it's just like, Manafort's underlying crime is he never registered as a foreign agent while he was lobbying, for the Moscow-friendly Yanukovych, right? So, if they go ahead and purge their phones, they're just digging and digging and digging deeper, deeper, deeper into the abyss. So... That's pretty desperate, if you ask me. But I will say, remember I told you that what you're looking for is who lawyers up, and
exactly.
Well, Manafort's hired a public relations firm, and obviously he's lawyered up because his lawyer responded today and said that he would voluntarily go, don't subpoena him. And Roger Stone, same thing, and Carter Page, same thing. So they're lawyered up now. They're ready.
And it's interesting to me that they said that they're willing to be interviewed but not testify, so that means they're not under oath?
Well, it is illegal to lie to the FBI. So, you don't need to be under oath. If you tell a lie to the FBI, then you've committed a crime just right then and there. Okay, so if they... Well, I guess what I was thinking about then is if the FBI is going to be questioning them and not the members of the committee? I'm not sure. It's all going to be, according to what Nunes said this morning, it's all going to be closed door. This was a big news story this morning before the bill failed. This is what I was going to make the show about, actually, was that there was supposed to be another open hearing in the House on Tuesday regarding all this Russia crap. And Nunes came out today and canceled it. Yeah, he won't allow that. I wonder why, Randy. I know. Isn't that interesting? It's such a mystery wrapped inside of a riddle, shoved inside of an enigma. Isn't it, Karen? I can't figure it out. Why can't we have open testimony if everybody's so stinking innocent and their hands are squeaky clean? Well, I think we know. Yeah, I do. I think that answers our question right there, don't you? Mm-hmm. Well, okay, I just wanted to say hi. I love you so much. Oh, you're adorable. I love your accent. It's just. Oh, thank you. It's just enough, It's so cute. Thanks so much. Thank you, honey. Have a good weekend. It really bothers me when people criticize your clothing, and I want them to all listen and stop that. Oh, thank you. Bye. I love you. I love you. Bye-bye. Oh, that was so sweet. Yeah, lay off of my clothing and, just because I have fabulous hair, they have to say, it's a wig. Oh, we never pulled that. That was the funniest thing from that horrible phone call. That guy called me every name in the book, and I let him do it. I just let him go on and on to show how completely devoid of facts he was. And then he finally said, and your hair is a wig. I thought that was so freaking funny. I wanted to put it on my machine. We'll get it. We have to get that. All right, we'll take a break. 20 after.
A things Randy at randyrhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
Buy a stinking podcast. Hey, Trump is in the White House. Gold. Yes, gold. It really has the opportunity to do super well. That's definitely one good reason to own it. But did you know that there are a lot of benefits to owning gold? When you have gold in your physical possession, it provides safety. It's a hedge against inflation, U.S. dollar turmoil, and presidential instability. Gold has so much historical precedence as real money that the central banks that run the global financial system buy gold in staggering quantities year after year. Many financial service providers agree that gold is a great diversification tool for everyone's portfolio. If you want to learn more about the benefits of owning gold, just call my friends at ITM Trading at 1-888-OWN-GOLD. Whether you want to own physical gold in your possession or put some in your IRA, call ITM today at 1-888-OWN-GOLD. ITM specializes in all types of gold and silver coins and bars. Call ITM Trading. Get your free gold kit at 1-888-OWN-GOLD. 1-888-OWN-GOLD.
This is Tara Devlin from RepublicanDirtyTricks.com on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn. And here's an excerpt from my show, the It Sucks to Be Right Tara Buster.
Insurance companies, they don't provide health care. They're a racket. They need to get the hell out of our lives. We need to get rid of insurance companies for health insurance because we don't need them. If we really wanted to solve this problem, then we'd have single payer. But Republicans can't have that because having people divided serves so many of their sweet spots. They can't have us as a country thinking that we are in this together. That's why they hate Social Security, too. And this is why the problem with Obamacare is the reason they can even come for it is it doesn't include everybody. So the way that they're talking about kicking poor people off of their insurance, and that's true, but that's okay with Republicans. It's not an argument for them. They hate poor people. Their remedy for health care is don't be poor, you stupid poor. You're stupid enough to be poor? Go die. Go beg a billionaire. Maybe you'll make a GoFundMe page for your cancer. When you find out you have a lump, get a GoFundMe page going. And maybe somebody with a lot of followers will retweet it for you. Somebody like Mike Pence or Paul Ryan. That's compassionate conservatism.
This is Tara Devlin from RepublicanDirtyTricks.com. That was a clip from my show, the It Sucks to Be Right Tara Buster, recorded live Saturday 6 p.m. Eastern at FYINation.com, replayed Sunday 7 p.m. Eastern on Progressive Voices, or anytime on demand on the Progressive Voices app. We stick together, we win.
Tales of American Political History with Clinton Porter Hackney.
We've discussed the 1916 explosion at Black Tom Island in New York Harbor, engineered by German agents. A summary of the sabotage can be found on a plaque at the site of the explosion. It reads in part, on July 30th, 1916, the Black Tom Island munitions depot exploded. On Ellis Island, terrified immigrants were evacuated by ferry. Shrapnel pierced the Statue of Liberty. Property damage was estimated at $20 million. It is not known how many died. According to historians, the Germans sabotaged the munitions depot in order to stop deliveries being made to the British. You're walking on a site which saw one of the worst acts of terrorism in American history. End quote. But we might add that it was the first act of terrorism on U.S. soil by a foreign power. Not long after, the U.S. finally declared war. This is Clinton Porter Hackney at cphackney.com.
For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit randyrhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
Are Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, because now they own Obamacare. They own it, 100% own it. And this is not a Republican health care. This is not anything but a Democrat health care. And they have Obamacare for a little while longer until it ceases to exist, which it will at some point in the near future. And just remember, this is not our bill, this is their bill. when they all become civilized and get together and try and work out a great health care bill for the people of this country, we're open to it.
Good. I'm glad you're open to it because there is this easy solution, and that is to restore the risk corridors, and it will work. But, with Tom Price at HHS, he can deregulate or re-regulate Obamacare in such a way that it does fail. I mean, don't think that the fight is over because it's not. Because, listen, they don't have any interest in fixing this. They don't have any interest in restoring those payments to the insurance carriers that they were promised if they took people who were, like me. I was on an HMO and I was perfectly healthy, and then all of a sudden I got a bad diagnosis. What did I do? I went into the healthcare exchange and I bought a big plan. And no matter how much I paid in premiums, it was not going to even remotely match the amount that the insurance company was going to pay to get me not to have cancer. So it's also fascinating. All right, Dylan in Madison, Indiana.
Okay. Hello?
Hi.
Okay, so first I want to talk about Obamacare.
Can you take me off your speakerphone?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Obamacare and why it shouldn't be repealed.
Why Obamacare should not be appealed. Yeah,
Repeal. Okay. Tens of millions of uninsured people have access to affordable, high-quality health insurance through Medicaid expansion, employers, and the healthcare insurance marketplace.
Okay, why? What are you reading to me?
That's why Obamacare should not be repealed.
That's why it should not be repealed. Yeah. Well, okay.
Okay, and also, over half of uninsured Americans can get free or low-cost health insurance.
Yeah, we know. Dylan, how old are you? Okay, I can't hear you. Your phone is bad. You sound like you sound like a young kid, and that's great that you're this interested in this topic, but you shouldn't really call and read things.
Okay.
All right, but I appreciate that you're trying to teach it to yourself. All right. Okay. I don't know what that was. Danette in Georgia.
Hey, Randy.
Hi, Danette.
So you were talking earlier about the communications company called Charter.
Yes.
And you were really angry. And then my Periscope started acting wonky and it froze, and I missed what you said. So I was calling to see if you told the listeners that that President Obama, during his 2013 State of the Union address, talked about onshoring and having jobs return to America, and he started various programs in the Department of Commerce, and one of those programs was having call centers come back to America.
Right.
Now, Charter is a company that, of course, offers broadband, and they also have call centers in order to serve their customers.
Right.
Well, there's another company called Arise that does the same thing, and they were actually featured on NBC, and President Obama mentioned them in his State of the Union address as an example of a company that is onshoring instead of offshoring and returning jobs to America. And so I wasn't sure if you had mentioned that or not, and I just hate that all the work that President Obama has done, and because he was a humble man and wasn't braggadocious like Trump, where he should have been, Trump is going to take credit for all of the stuff that Obama did. And the sad thing is that nobody knows that. If they go to, if they type in onshoring or jobs program, Obama State of the Union or something like that, there will be on the archived whitehouse.gov pages for President Obama, there's a whole thing about all of these different things that he's done, and I'll send a link to you for it, because I know you're like, bring your facts, and that's really important. You know, Trump is a scam artist.
Oh, I know.
He is lying, and the Republicans have done nothing For 8 years, they did nothing. They refused to work with President Obama, and they're lying. Obamacare is not failing unless they kill it. And this was a victory today, but like you said earlier, they're coming for it. They're coming for it.
Tom Price's entire mission now at HHS is going to be to put in regulations that literally hobble and kill Obamacare.
Yeah, and here's the thing, what's crazy and what people really ought to be upset about this is insurance is a product that we pay for. So we should be able to have what we want, right? If I want maternity care, I should have it, right? They shouldn't say, oh, well, we'll take that out. The other thing is that the way insurance works is you have to spread the risk around. I'm part of a car insurance company that's offered to the military where I used to have 3 vehicles on my insurance, and I paid under $150 a month.
Wow.
Because we spread the risk around. My bill right now, we've got 3 vehicles, and it went up slightly. It's like $168 or something like that.
What's your insurance company?
It's USAA. USAA.
I'm with USAA.
And we've got a Ford Focus. My husband has a Mitsubishi pickup truck, and we've got a 2000 XJ8 Vaden Plus, which is like the top of the line Jaguar.
Yeah.
And it's $168 a month because there's a massive group of people. They insure military people worldwide, where other insurance companies, if you leave America, that insurance company doesn't cover you. USAA covers you. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
And so the thing is that insurance, the way it works is you have to spread the risk around. Rich people don't have to have insurance because they have money to protect them. You know, so they don't know squat about it. And it just angers me so much. It makes me so mad that we have these stupid people running our country and telling us the things we can and can't have. Insurance is high. The premiums are high. You've been telling us this for weeks. Marco Rubio screwed this up.
Yes, he did.
People need to call him on that. We need to have like 45,000 people call his office and go, why did you do that, Marco Rubio? Why did you do that? You know, it's insane.
Well, the first thing everybody has to learn is that there was something called the risk corridor. And what it is it was a reimbursement, a payment to insurance carriers for taking all comers. And of course it would be the people who needed health insurance right now the most. And so they said, this is going to kill us. And the government in ACA said, then we will pay. You file a claim, you tell us how much you lost, and we will make up the difference to make this thing work. And it was fine. And then they filed their claim, and Marco Rubio, instead of $83 billion, gave them $362 million. And they said, we can't. First of all, they saw the government as being liars and not trustworthy. And second, They had to eat that amount. And so they pulled off the exchange. They stopped offering their companies insurance plans. That's why we're down to so few.
And the other thing is how is the government paying for that? With our tax dollars.
Yes, it was.
People need to understand civilization costs money.
Yeah.
You want your federal highway system to work. You want your fire department and your ambulance to come to your house when you have a heart attack or your house is on fire. You want your water to be clean? Do you want your children educated? Do you want, I don't know, planes to stay in the sky and not crash on your house as they're taxiing to the airport? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Civilization costs money, and we cannot cut our way. You cannot cut taxes. If we're in debt, we need to raise taxes. Did we spend the money? Yes, we did. We need to pay our taxes. That is our patriotic duty.
It's not just it's not just us. It's not just us. It's not the middle class. It's that, you have these people like Donald Trump who can declare bankruptcy to the tune of almost $1 billion. And because they did it in the tax code, he's allowed to write that down for the rest of his life and avoid taxes. You have multi-billion-dollar companies who are, supposed to be taxed at 35%, but because of all the stuff that the Republicans shove into this, giant, massive tax code, they walk away with, refunds. They pay nothing, but they get money back. It's ridiculous. The whole inequality, the whole experience in America now is one of unequal treatment, mostly by the government. The government is beholden to giant corporations to be reelected, to be elected, to escape a primary. And then once they're in office, they have to be the beck and call girls of them that brung them. And we are so stupid that we think, oh, well, we voted them in there and they'll be beholden to us. No, they're not beholden to us.
Not only that, Randy, but there are people who are also so stupid to think that they're actually getting a tax cut. Like when I'm walking around my Walmart and I'm talking to my neighbors or I'm talking to the people that actually physically live next door to me, and they're like, oh, my taxes are so high, I need a tax cut, and I'm going to vote for Republicans because they're giving me a tax cut. No, you're not getting a tax cut. Donald Trump is getting a tax cut. You're having to pay this in some other way.
Yeah, absolutely.
They might not call it a tax, but they have to pay it another way. It's ridiculous. It's unacceptable. People need to wake up and get educated about how this government works.
Well, that's a big problem in this country. There's no question. People don't read newspapers. And that just shocks me because, listen, I will say a lot of the local newspapers are terrible and a lot of the local newspapers are great. You never know which you're going to get. Like my local newspaper is just, it's a mullet wrapper, okay? It's garbage. You would line the bottom of a bird. Too. Right. So instead, I read the Washington Post. Do I read the New York Times? Yep. I read the Wall Street Journal. Do I pay $9.99 a year to read it? Yes, I do. Yep. But at least I have information. If you think that any successful person in this country, uber successful person in this country, does not know what the tax code says, does not understand what's coming down the pike, what's in the pipeline for legislation, doesn't have information, you're crazy. Information is the coin of the realm. That's why you can't do insider information. You can't, do what Tom Price does. You can't be making the law and then invested in the outcome. That's why Tom Price can go. He can really go. This man is just, an inside trader. There's no doubt about it. And I mean traitor, not trader. He's a traitor.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, but are you telling me that guys like him didn't get ahead because they understood the legislation that was coming down the pike and they were investing in the companies that would benefit from the legislation that they were introducing? Now, if you don't read a newspaper, then you don't even have half a chance of knowing what Tom Price knows. So he's always going to be richer than you.
Yeah, I get frustrated. I say I don't understand as like a turn of phrase, but like really?
I know. Well, the first day I was ever in college, the first day that I had a political science class, I'll never forget it as long as I live. My professor's name was Dr. Schindler. Can you imagine?
Oh, wow.
I know.
Wow.
It was way before the movie. But anyway, Dr. Schindler said, he asked all of us with our sleepy little eyes in community college, he asked every one of us, why would anybody want to be a congressman? It takes millions of dollars to run and you make about $150,000 a year. Why would anybody do that and put themselves through all this, right? And nobody had an answer. And he goes, because when you're a Congress member, you know where the highway's going to be built, and then you can build your Burger King at the exit ramp. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how you get rich in America. And it was a wake-up call for me. And I now with Citizens United, and you can have just a handful of people providing the $300 to $400 million to elect 40 members. Well, then you've got two brothers controlling everything. Now, if you think they don't read newspapers or they don't read the legislation, or then you're always going to be poor. You're always going to wonder why it's the way it is.
And it's not even that they know the legislation; it's that they give the legislation. to Congress.
Well, now they do.
Write the legislation.
Now they do. Now they do.
It's crazy. And the fact that that Trump, who in my opinion is a mediocre white guy with 6 bankruptcies and 3 wives, and Obama was a constitutional lawyer. You know what I mean? He was the president of the Harvard professor and a lawyer, and he was the president of the Harvard Law Review, knew the Constitution back to front, and Trump can just do whatever he wants, but let President Obama put his knee on the desk, and it's or his foot on the desk, and it's a national emergency. We've got Russia running our country right now.
Yeah.
Every single person in Trump's cabinet is a gangster thug.
Yeah, that's it. That's where we are.
All things Randy at randyrhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randy Rhodes Show.
Buy a Stinking Podcast. I love jerky. It's big protein, big flavor, big packs, and very little carbs. My favorite snack is jerky, as you know, but you just can't get the best stuff at the gas station or the supermarket. No, you have to order it online from the best purveyors of jerky I have ever found, Herky Jerky. It is the official snack of the Randi Rhodes Air Force, and it comes in elk and buffalo, beef and bacon. Oh yes, bacon. Hot, mild, 14 other incredible flavors. And now, for the month of March, all Randy listeners get a surprise sample pack of one of the items when you purchase 2 packs or more of anything. It could be elk, it could be the venison, you could try the buffalo, anything. It's going to be a surprise. No promo code is needed, but to get the free sample pack, write in the comments section, buy a Stinking Podcast. Then they'll know that the order came from you, my listeners. That runs through the end of the month, so go ahead right now. Forget it. The bacon is unbelievable. You can put it on BLTs, use it in salads, or just munch right out of the bag. Go to herkyjerky.com and buy.
I'm David Pakman, host of The David Pakman Show on the Progressive Voices channel. Check out this clip from my show. I've talked about meeting Sean Hannity, conservative radio host, in the past, and I've admitted that despite finding his politics totally deplorable and disgusting, of the many liberal and conservative media people that I've met, he was one of the nicest. He hangs around the longest, talking to people who want to talk to him or take a picture or get an autograph. Apparently, though, that doesn't apply to everyone that Sean Hannity meets, because it's been leaked that Sean Hannity once pulled out a gun on liberal Fox News contributor Juan Williams in October after getting into a political debate with Williams on air. Hannity pulled out a gun and pointed it right at Williams, according to 3 different people with direct knowledge of the incident. And Hannity, imagine this, was even using the laser sight on the gun. So a red laser dot appeared on Williams's body on the set of Fox News. Sources say that maybe Hannity was kind of joking, but that everybody in the room was very disturbed by what happened, including Williams himself. Other people in the room reported the incidents to higher-ups at Fox News and to the legal and human resources departments that were ultimately notified about this. It's not clear what came of it. A Fox News spokesperson asked about this, said, quote, Sean Hannity has been trained in firearm safety since he was 11 years old and has a license to carry a gun in 5 states, including New York. The situation was thoroughly investigated, and it was found that no one was put in any danger. Hannity was asked about this as well, and he said via the spokesperson, quote, while discussing the issue of firearms, I showed my good friend Juan Williams my unloaded firearm in a professional and safe manner for educational purposes only. Every precautionary procedure that I have been trained in since the age of 11 was followed. I've had a concealed carry permit in 5 states for all of my adult life. Any other interpretation of this is outright false reporting. Pointing a gun at someone is pretty high on the list of gun safety things that you should never do, even though he believed the gun to be unloaded. You don't point a gun at someone. So how can the reports all say he pointed the gun at Williams, putting a laser sight on him, and yet followed all safety precautions?
Right.
It doesn't compute.
Whether the gun's real or fake, whether it's loaded or unloaded, you shouldn't do that because you're causing the other person to have fear for their life. And even if you're thinking selfishly, what if Juan Williams had a gun on him and thought he was threatened, pulled out a gun of his own, and someone gets shot in that case? I mean, even from a selfish perspective, and you're not thinking about the other person, you just shouldn't do that out of your own safety.
Also, how is it that all that Fox News has to say about one of their employees pointing a gun at another one of their employees is that all safety measures were followed? There aren't that many employers who would react to one employee drawing a bead with a red laser on another employee in their office space most employers would not react in this way, would they?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it's just that Juan Williams is often thought of as the token liberal on the show there.
Yeah, so it's okay to point a gun at him.
Yeah, they're okay with that.
I mean, how insane is that? Can you imagine? It's only Juan Williams. He's here just to provide a liberal alternative view to the 99% view. If it had been, I don't even know, Brian Kilmeade who had a gun pointed at him, this would be a very different situation. Hannity, one of the earliest prominent figures in corporate media to support Donald Trump, seems to love confrontation of all kinds, whether it's on Twitter or in studios. I wonder how common it is for people to pull guns out at Fox News. I've been there twice, and in New York City, I didn't see any guns. No. And so I have no idea how common of a thing it is.
Well, you should have one of your own just in case that was to happen.
Right,
the only way to stop Fox News with a weapon is to have one of your own.
Have a weapon yourself, yeah. Very, very strange story, folks. You've been listening to part of The David Pakman Show on the Progressive Voices channel. For full audio and video podcasts, interviews, and more, go to davidpakman.com and check out our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The David Pakman Show.
For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit randyrhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
All righty, 46 after, which means 14 minutes to beer. All right. And I know they told me no alcohol because of, my stomach, my little ulcer. So I'm treating it myself. I reached out to a girlfriend, a listener who, wrote to me and was trying to send us some herbs and spice, some stuff from her vitamin store, from her holistic healing store. She had written me and asked me, what do you need? I'll send you anything you want. We have, completely natural, no GMOs, no, gluten-free, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I'm so healthy now. I don't need anything. I really don't. I take a little black cohash and it works beautifully and I don't need anything. Last night I panicked, wrote her. And I said to her, the name of her store, if you want to go online, is it's Gaia, Gaia. She's got a whole vitamin shop there. So I reached out to her. I said, somebody told me I need black seed oil for my belly, and I need licorice root, and what else can I throw at it? And she reached out to her homeopathic doctors and friends and wrote me back. You need licorice root. You need marshmallow. You need marshmallow. You need marshmallow. You need black seed. Will cure anything but death. You have to have that. And another guy, I think he's in Australia, told me about black seed. So I am throwing everything, and I put a little Greek yogurt on top of it. It's so far so good. Had a good day today. So I'm going to drink the alcohol is basically the point in 14 minutes. All right. Michael in Memphis, Tennessee.
Hi, Randy. How you doing?
I'm good.
Hey, I am just so glad you're back on the air. I just found out last week.
Oh, man.
So refreshing. I really appreciate you being back.
How'd you find out?
I was looking online. I just typed. I said, I wonder what Randy's up to.
No.
When I typed, it was because I remember when you quit the your show a couple of years back.
Yeah.
And I'll check every now and then, and I saw it, and I'm like, oh, cool.
Oh, wow.
And I guess just in time.
It was an internet accident. All right. We have to do something about that, and I'm almost in a position to do that. So I guess I should discuss it with everybody because, it's listener supported for the most part. And so I had this idea to maybe, Captain Leary had this idea. This was his idea, and it's freaking brilliant. And I thought we can't afford that, but the more I look into it and the more people buy podcasts, the more we can. I was thinking of putting like a little local TV ad, like when you watch TV, like if you watch MSNBC or CNN or whatever, you're seeing national ads mostly for pharmaceuticals, mostly for people suffering with diabetes and skin rashes, right?
Right.
But then like you'll notice that there's a local commercial usually for a hit and run attorney, you know what I mean? Or something like this. So I went and looked at how much does it cost to be the local advertiser, and it's like not bad. So I'm thinking of putting an ad like right in the middle of Rachel Maddow's show. Wouldn't that be something? Yeah, and I'll run it
you may not like it too much.
Well, too bad. And, once I'm a paying customer, she can't say no to me. So there's the revenge. Success is always the best revenge. So yeah, I was thinking about buying like in LA, and but is Memphis friendly to me or no? Because I have to figure out where to put the money.
No, Memphis is pretty inbred.
Oh, okay, all right, never mind.
It's an interesting place.
All right,
good barbecue though.
Oh yeah.
That's about it.
Oh man, the barbecue in the South is just insane. You know what? I do miss a couple things about living in the South. Like, I will tell you, one of my listeners sent me his homemade barbecue sauce, which is pretty freaking awesome, called Sweet and Sassy. It's amazing. But his name's Larry. But the other thing is Popeye's fried chicken.
Oh yeah, there's one right around the corner from my office.
Okay, and it's not really the fried chicken so much as it is the biscuits.
Yeah, the biscuits. Yeah, my employees. They had that today.
Oh, it's the best. It's the best. It's so good. You see, I don't really eat carbs anymore, but when I was a young DJ and I was working in Alabama, all I did, my entire car was trashed, because I was a kid. My entire car was filled. The whole back seat was filled with dirty clothes and Popeye's wrappers. The whole car. So good. Yeah. So what did you call about? Hello.
Oh, I was calling, and I was me and some colleagues, we were just talking today with the Democrats and the wiretapping and the Supreme Court nominee. Yeah. I just get the feeling that when all this is said and done, nothing's going to happen. They're going to let all of this stuff slide. They're going to punk out on Gorsuch. They're going to punk out on the wiretapping. And of course, they don't have the numbers for health care. But the difference between them and the Republicans don't care. They're gonna go lockstep and like, you know what, we're gonna raise complete hell. You aren't gonna get anything done. When they're the minority, they don't care.
Well, today, I hate to tell you this, Michael, today's not the day to sit there and say how lame we are, because today is the day that we found out that they are going to filibuster Gorsuch, meaning he just has to get 60 votes like everybody else, like Obama's nominees and W's nominees. And
that impressed me.
Okay, so that's good, right? And then healthcare failed, and but not because of us. Although I will say one thing about Nancy Pelosi, she is like, she's like, I don't know, she's got a whip or something, because
she's a tough chick.
Every Democrat hung together, not one single Democrat peeled off. Okay, everybody said no, and then of course Donald Trump has broken the Republican Party into factions.
Yes, he has.
All right, and so they failed miserably. The wall is not getting built. They're not going to do that because they want to do a tax cut for the wealthy, so they don't have money for that. The travel ban failed miserably. I think today's the day to celebrate, not to winning. We won. We're winning. We're going to have so much winning that we're going to get bored with the winning.
I don't want to be the person, that hopes that, my president gets impeached, or hopes that my president is breaking the law, and hopes my president goes to jail. But
but
there are just too many. And I used to be a cop. I don't believe in coincidence. Chief Dougie's always, there's no such thing as coincidence.
Yeah.
And there are just too many coincidences with this guy.
Well, every single person in his administration and on that campaign, especially in the transition team, all have ties to Russia and Russian oligarchs, and Donald Trump also. There's a really good one. It's in my homework today. Go to randyrhodes.com, obviously, and then click on the homework section. There's a new thing called the Moscow Project, and it's got everything in there. And when you go through like all these things, you go through the timeline and you go through the players, the actual players, every one of them, including Donald Trump, is so married to Russian oligarchs, to Russians, to Russian intelligence agents, who, by the way, are showing up dead all over Ukraine and Russia. I find this fascinating.
And there's the coincidence word again. I called my old chief because I was not internal affairs anymore. I called chief. He's retired. I said, Chief, you don't see all these coincidences? And he said, what I tell you about coincidences, rookie?
Yeah.
I mean, all these dead people are showing up now. Is it happenstance?
Yeah, it is amazing. But I was looking at like all the players. Okay, so you got Paul Manafort, you got Carter Page, Michael Flynn, Roger Stone, Michael Cohen, his longtime personal lawyer, and then Trump himself. Okay, Russia, if you're listening, go ahead and hack. He met with the Russian ambassador. He criticized the U.S. for intervening in the invasion of Ukraine. Said the Crimea wanted to be part of Ukraine. Right? He's he's got financiers tied to the Kremlin, the Bayrock Group, Felix Slater. You're right. I mean, it's just too many odd characters, all attached to Russia, attached to him. I mean, what are the odds?
And the Republicans are saying nothing. I mean, we're not talking about the nonsense they came up with the birth certificate. We're not talking about that nonsense. We're talking about treason here.
Yeah, we are. We're in treason territory. And you know what's crazy is I remember when the whole internet lit up because there was this stupid lie, this fake fact, this fake news that was going around that Hillary Clinton sold uranium to the Russians. Well, it turns out she didn't, that never happened. It was a Canadian company. They owned a uranium mine and it had to go, they wanted to sell it to the Russians. It had to go through our government. 9 different agencies had to sign off on the Canadian to the Russians, right? And 9 agencies did, and the Russians are not allowed to take the uranium out of the United States. That's the true facts about that story. But remember how they were just like, they were like crapping their pants over, oh, there it is, Hillary's in bed with the Russian. Meanwhile, you got this guy with everyone around him tied to Russians, lobbying for Russians, lobbying for dictators, lobbying for the Moscow-friendly Ukrainian dictator who flees to Russia, and then the next day, it invades Ukraine. I mean, and they don't say a word.
It's basically, Randy, he's got a knife in his hand, blood all over him. You just can't find a body. And they're not saying anything. Well,
I got a body. I got a body right here. This is in Russian, so, it's not going to do much for you if you're listening on audio, but if you're watching, this is pretty graphic. This is a dead Russian. This is Denis Varenikov. He was shot dead. He's a former lawmaker from Russia. He was in the State Duma, and all of a sudden, he turned out to be somebody vocal against Putin, and he ends up dead on the streets of Kiev in Ukraine. That's the 10th dead Russian. So there are bodies everywhere. Got a guy was found in the trunk of his car. They won't. I mean, really, come on. This is crazy. It's like the closer we get to these connections and tying them all into a nice, neat bow, the more dead Russians show up. Somebody's covering up something.
Right. You got Nunez. I mean, what is it? What is it about Trump and their need to want to kiss this guy's butt? I don't get it.
Well, the big clue is that they're Trump associates.
That's crazy. I'm talking about the politicians. I know the associates.
Well, Nunez worked on the campaign too. He was part of the transition
team.
Sure
did.
Yeah, he did. Everybody did. And anybody the guy over at the government, the GSA, the Government Services Administration, they're the people that oversee leases, government leases. Well, Donald Trump leased that postal service, that postal building, right? And in that contract, it specifically says, if you work for the government in any capacity, you can't hold one of these leases. So now Donald Trump is the landlord and the tenant. So what does he do? He takes some guy off his transition team, puts him as the head of the Government Services Agency. Yesterday, there's another thing that didn't get reported. Yesterday, the GSA says, oh, it's fine. He can own it. He could be the landlord and the tenant. It's not a big deal.
So they're changing the rules.
Of course.
Crazy.
Right. And expect a whole lot of that, especially with regard to the health care. I'm telling you, Tom Price is going to do every damn regulatory change that he could possibly do to hobble and kill Obamacare. You watch. These people are not done. Thank you for calling me. I'm so glad you found me. An internet accident. So we had another awesome listener. Okay, I just want to say that Judy's podcasts that Judy paid for have all been given away. I gave away 10. I gave away the last one last night to a really nice guy in Brownsville in Brooklyn, from that's where my parents are from. And he said, I love you. I can't afford it. And so that was the 10th one. Now we have a man named Mr. R. Okay. Mr. R has bought 10 podcasts to give away. I tweeted it out last night. And then we have another woman named Amy who also wants to buy 10 podcasts. So over the weekend, if you reach out to me, you just go to randyrhodes.com And I don't know why it's like this, but on the About Us tab, if you click on the About Us tab, it'll drop down and it'll say Contact Us. Contact us and tell me, that you need a podcast and you can't afford one, and we will gift you one. We have about 20 to give away now, which is insane. And I thank Amy and Mr. R and Judy who started this whole, it's like an epidemic now. Amy actually wrote, the title of her email was, I want to be like Judy. So thank you. That was beautiful. Have a good one.